Welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler here with Johnny. Today we are discussing horror movies about people trapped in one place for 90 minutes or more to make an entire feature film. There's another one called 247 Degrees about people stuck in a sauna. And you would think that there's no way they could make a movie about that. That's 2 hours long. It's a movie about people stuck in a sauna for 2 hours, Johnny. How do you feel about that?
Sweaty.
That's it. Yeah. Do you like some good old single set movies, Johnny? Some phone booth?
Sure. Yeah.
Some
if they're interesting,
buried...
single room movies can be interesting. But speaking of people trapped for 90 minutes or more in one place, hey, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, it's a real episode. We're in for it.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how many notes we have, no matter how much we have to say about those notes, I'm stuck here till 3 a.m. at least. That's just the rule. Johnny, what's going on with you? We got a podcast. We got to talk about something interesting here.
You brought us in on this weird note. You're like, we're talking about single set horror movies and people being trapped in one place. And I was just like, whoa, here we are. All right. Tyler's, off a ledge, and I'm here for it.
I mean, Saw. One of the best. I don't know if it's one of the best horror movies ever made. Certainly a modern classic horror movie. It's just two people stuck in a room for most of the movie. It's fantastic.
Tej, I'll tell you. I've been looking at stuff that is kind of related. I've been looking at records.
Vinyl records?
Yeah, vinyl records. I've been looking at old, vintage horror story records and Halloween records. They're pretty amazing. Probably going to buy a few.
That sounds pretty fun. That seems like there would be a bunch of just weird rare stuff, but it doesn't cost anything because who the fuck is looking for spoken word horror story records?
Yeah, and maybe I'll get a few dumb soundtracks too, but just keep it on that Halloween thing. My friend is super into records right now, and he wants me to go kind of join him a little bit. So I was like, all right, I could carve out a little wedge if I did this thing.
All right, I mean, I've got way too much to collect. I the last thing I need is people telling me that I need to find more interesting things to collect.
Me too. But this is if we go to a record show or store, I can find something for $10 and as he spends his money and be like, look, I'm participating with you. We're best friends. We're doing it.
I mean, you got anything? Give me a what do you buy? And I guess spoil your hot horror record while we're talking about it. And what does something like this cost, Johnny?
Okay. Hold on. Let me get to my purchase history so I can give you the exact title. This one is Great Ghost Stories from 1973 by Troll Records, and it cost me $4.
Oh, fuck yeah. All right, I'm in.
Yeah, there's also shipping.
Right now. Oh, fuck yeah. Look at this thing. Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah. There's a bunch of great covers. So another weird one I got. And the front isn't great, but here, look up this one. And it's Tales to Make You Shiver. Sounds to Make You Shiver. There's multiple copies of this record with different covers. So there's one where you can clearly see Frankenstein. That's the newest one. So it's not good. But there's also one with a skeleton playing a piano. But the one with Frankenstein, if you look at the back cover's awesome. And the inner label is also fun. It's got
these are pretty good. Let me paint a word picture because we always do this. We get into box art.
Yeah.
But the Great Ghost Stories, it's like a 2-color box, whatever it's called, disc art. What do you call these? Cover art.
And
it's just a grassy graveyard with a blue sky and a bunch of weird, creepy ghouls. And one of the ghouls has a skull in its hood, and it's like a very painted style. It's very 70s, and I love it. It's realistic. I thought this would be cartoony because are these serious grim stories, or are these for kids?
Some of these are just sound effect records. Some of them are for kids. And that's the neat thing. It's all these different styles of Halloween stuff that I like. So you can get a bunch of cool stuff. The Sounds to Make You Shiver one. One of them looks really cartoony. So it's got Frankenstein, right? And it's in front of looks like Dracula's castle, and Dracula looks pretty cartoony, and Frankenstein looks cartoony. There's a lot going on. There's a witch's brew. But if you look at the back, there's this realistic, scary skull. But an earlier pressing of the record is two skeletons playing doubles at the piano together, and then like one is just like slumped over a chair, and it's realistic. And yeah, it's just fun. These are fun. There's all kinds of different styles.
I love that. The original box art or the original cover art that you're talking about. Yeah, I love it. Oh yeah, it's like a photograph of skeletons at a piano, but like intentionally over contrasted and kind of shitty. Like, I feel like what they were going for probably wasn't as creepy as it seems now, because now it has more of like a vintage horror feel to it.
Yep.
Anyway, Sounds to Make You Shiver is a sound effects collection. So some of those hot tracks include screams, screams and groans, and moans and groans. 3 of my favorite tracks from that album.
Yeah, so they're just fun. There's one called Spooky Halloween, and then it's just Edgar Allan Poe like stories.
I'm in.
So it's like, yeah.
I mean, and then that would be some good stuff, because I always play music out my window, or from my house when for Halloween. But like, just having an old record playing Edgar Allan Poe stories, that might be pretty good.
Yeah, well, also, like, I think record players are inherently creepier than like CD music or MP3s or whatever, or WAV files. Look at this one called Halloween at Home. It's got a really stupid like looking ghost, but it's just ghost stories.
I'm finding all sorts of stuff because I typed in Halloween, Johnny. Oh, I don't know.
Halloween at Home.
Oh, okay.
Record.
Never mind. I found it. Yeah, this one looks like Casper the Friendly Ghost style, stupid for kids shit.
But like, look at the kids. The kids look like wax dolls a little bit. Like if you look back, it doesn't. But you start to look closer, they look weird. Yeah. Then there's this other one, A Horn Book for Witches. Warlock Vincent Price stories and poems for Halloween.
All right,
Pretty
I'm
cool.
in. I like it. And you know what? I'm clicking through a bunch of these related ones, and like half of them are like less than $5. So I approve. I think this is cool. If I was going through Goodwill, because when you go to Goodwill, it's like literally 100% Christian records, Christmas songs, or classical music. But if I saw some of these for like $1 each, like, yeah, I would be picking up Haunted House, whatever, on vinyl. Pretty cool. I'm in.
Yeah.
I don't have room for it, and this is nonsense, but I'm proud of you.
Yeah, this is like, look, like I said, I'm gonna go to my friend with my friend. He wants to go to some record shows. He's my best friend. Like, we're gonna go to these things. It'd be fine just to hang out with him. But no, this, while he's very seriously looking like the way we would go through bins of stuff, he's gonna be very seriously doing for that. So I'm gonna like, all right, let me go look for these dumb things. And like, if I find some for like $10-$20, cool. If not, no big deal.
All right. You've got the first print of the Disneyland Chilling Thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House, though. That seems really up your alley.
So that one is a really interesting record because it's got like 6 different prints and they're all pretty cool. There's like the original one is a white label one and it's got a purple label on the record. And I have not that one. I have a later orange one, but it has a real cool inner sleeve. It's got a real cool inner sleeve, though, which has like Halloween party games on it. And then there's like a realistic one that's a shot of the Haunted Mansion, and that's not great. And then there's a later one, and it's like Chilling Sounds of the Haunted Mansion. And that one is like a really cool cover, too. They're all pretty good. And I do have, like I said, I do have the orange one because I have that with my Haunted Mansion stuff. I didn't know there was more. I just found this at a garage sale one day, like 15 years ago. And now I'm like, oh, there's like a few of these. I want to go grab them.
Johnny, when did Disneyland open? I'm looking at this quote unquote first print. I don't know. I just clicked the first one on Discogs.
I think. So check it out. I think the first one is 1963 on that. And it's interesting because it'll have sound effects that are in the Haunted Mansion. But that record actually came out a year before the Haunted Mansion opened.
Ooh, that's a good fact. And like the first print, quote unquote, I'm sure it's not in like the best condition, but there's 16 available, $6. Should I be collecting records? No,
I don't know.
I shouldn't.
Like
I don't want this stuff.
No. So this is, we'll go back to Stefan's logic, like of 3DO. Like the covers are so big, you get like fun art on them, and like you get really big art. Because like most of this you could collect on CD, but a lot of this stuff, like weird old dumb Halloween stuff for kids, like from the 60s and 50s. That might just all be lost to time and never made it to modern media. So I think that's kind of fun.
Sure. Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I like big box PC games because, well, I like PC games is really why. But like, if this was a big box PC game, on the art alone, this would be like at least $25 just because it's a fucking cool skull.
Mhm.
Like, come on. Yeah, I like the big box PC games because, you know, you get that big art, whatever. But I mean, the problem with it is that, like, yes, there is the more dramatic, bigger cover, but then they're like 4 times as thick as a DVD or a jewel case. So it's like you're losing out on quantity that you can have by having the bigger thing. Whereas records is the opposite. You get the really big dramatic thing, and then you can have 10,000 of them, and they fit on like a Calyx shelf.
Yep. And I probably will just buy one crate, and when it's filled, I'll have to be done.
That's a very good plan, considering how many things you own, Johnny.
Yes, I look. We already know that I own too many things, but again, this will be fun. And like, it's very low stress. It's not a big deal. It'll just be something I do with my buddy.
Well, I mean, you have so many things because there are a lot of things, Johnny, that you're able to collect, right?
Yes, there are a lot of things I am able to collect, but you know what, Tyler? I'm more interested now in what we can't collect. So maybe you could tell me about that.
Well, Johnny, I should have had this prepared, but someone very recently on our Discord suggested, I think it was Sam.
Kanakis, right?
Was it Kanakis? That makes sense too.
Yeah.
Where is it? Yeah, literally, it's from like 2 days ago. Kanakis was just like top 10 games that you can't collect. And I loved that idea. I'm like, yes, because I'm constantly finding games that I'm like, I can't own that, or I can't own the version that I really want of that. And this has been like hitting me since I've been collecting like weird historical stuff. So I love this episode idea.
Yep. But we didn't get into like super specifics. Like we kept it more, I don't know, more categories. Like rather than.
Because I mean, everybody knows like, if an indie game's only released on Steam, yeah, you can't collect it. But like, there's more than that. Yeah. There's
like California Raisins. There's like, there's one proto for California Raisins that made it out.
Oh,
like, no, you can't really collect that.
I found California Raisins on AliExpress, Johnny. I'm pretty sure I can get that for $17.99.
Yeah, there might be a New Kids on the Block box that for a game that never came out, and only Josh Byerly has. Stuff like that. Like we didn't name off things like that, but they exist.
I mean, so that's the thing. There are kind of multiple categories of this. So there's stuff that literally you can't own because it doesn't exist as far as we know. So Minnesota State Lottery for the NES, like literally there is some kind of the Minnesota State Lottery. They made some kind of like, either it was a prototype that never came to fruition, I'm pretty sure, but they were going to intend to use Nintendo's to connect to play the lottery somehow. I don't know the story of this off the top of my head. It's just something I thought of. There's like a picture of a screenshot of this thing, but the cartridge was never found. That is literally something you can't own. But then you go and you get into like mainframe games and you can't own them because it's just like not feasible, or more likely it just doesn't exist anymore. And then there's things like Josh Byerly's New Kids on the Block NES box, which is like a one-off sample box, and you can't own it because he's not going to sell it to you. And then there's digital things that we can't own because they're ethereal and they flow through our fingers, Johnny. And we're just going to talk about all the things that frustrate us that we can't own them.
Okay, let's do that.
Johnny, let's go back to those mainframe games and start off with very old games, and very specifically, games from like the early 70s and below. Almost universally, you just cannot own that stuff. Like the Sumerian game is a mainframe game, probably more familiarly. The Oregon Trail was originally like an educational mainframe game. It wasn't, I'm going to buy a copy of Oregon Trail and install it on like the Apple IIs in my children's classroom. The original Oregon Trail, it was like a field trip. You like took the kids over to a computer to play the Oregon Trail, and I don't know how it worked. They like fed in punch cards, whatever you did on an old 1960s mainframe. But that version of the game is like, that is not at all the version of the game you play that like MECC made popular, and like everyone knows the Oregon Trail. Oh, I click the buffalo when I'm hunting because I want to bring the food back. So really, no matter how early of a version of Oregon Trail you get, like you can go get like the original quote unquote Apple II version. It came out like a decade after the real Oregon Trail. So even if you get the coolest Oregon Trail, it's not the real thing. Although, in a sense, the only version of the Oregon Trail anyone cares about is the version that you'll be buying. So there is that.
True.
There's stuff like, and I mean, we can go on forever about all the most historical games, like OXO is a tic-tac-toe game played on a computer that I'm sure doesn't exist anymore. Tennis for Two was played on like an oscilloscope. Like that doesn't exist anymore. You obviously can't own something like that. And then we get into all the stuff where like you have to do kind of the best you can. So Space War is a PDP-1 game. And I think there's like 1 or 2 working PDP-1s in the world. And this wasn't like a commercially released game. So they have a version of Space War that plays on it. You can't really own that. Although I'm sure if you went to them with like $20 million, they might like completely reject their morals as a museum and like maybe sell it to you. I don't know. But you can own Computer Space, which is basically the same thing sold as an arcade game. And that has recently, in like one of these like 2021 auctions when the world was on fire, Computer Space cabinets started selling for like $10,000 plus, which they're a very cool cabinet, but they've never sold for that kind of crazy money. So that's kind of interesting. People are really desperate to own that first earliest thing, that only taste of Space War that they can get, Johnny.
That's insane, by the way.
That is absolutely nuts. I'm pretty sure like most of those, so there were multiple for sale in one auction, and they all sold for like over $5,000. Like even completely busted ones that did not work, which is just like, holy shit.
But that just speaks to exactly what we're talking about, right? So when you can't actually collect something, people look for that one thing, that thing you can grasp, that first taste you can get. How close can I get? This is as far as I can go. And look how much they'll pay for that moment.
It's true. I mean, Computer Space also has a lot going for it, being like the first arcade game. But yeah. And then, so Zork, I think so. Was Zork one of those projects that, sorry, what was that?
I was like, thought you could buy Zork. Tell me more. As being that Zork, guy.
Johnny. I know. So I'm trying to think. So it was developed for the PDP-10, and I'm trying to think, was that ever commercially released, or was that just like, we're gonna make a video game? Because the first commercial release of Zork was for the PDP-11 computer, and I don't remember how it was distributed. It was some like crazy, like it's 1977. How the fuck does mainframe software get distributed? But apparently, it sold 100 copies, and of those 100 copies, 0 are known to exist today, and 1 copy of the manual still exists. So there is a technical world in which you could own an original copy of Zork, but more likely you're going to have to go buy one of the home computer ports and just be a sad little boy who knows he doesn't have the real thing. And kind of the same thing with Colossal Cave Adventure. Like there are so many versions of Colossal Cave Adventure that were like added upon and changed over the years for mainframes, but none of them had a commercial release. So you're going to have to go to there's a billion remakes of it in the 80s, but none of them are really the real thing.
I think it's weird when you say sad little boy and I look at that boy's name and his name is Tyler.
What? It is. Let's see. I don't have a Computer Space. I do have my placeholder of Zork. I have my placeholder of Adventure. Got my Oregon Trail. Obviously, I don't have a Tennis for Two. And who the fuck cares about the Sumerian game? That's one of those games that is like, it's nice to know that exists. I don't need to own anything related to it.
What is the Sumerian game? Because I'm not familiar with it.
It's like a civilization management strategy game where I think you manage crops and stuff for
that makes sense.
A thing. It's from 1964. It was played by 6th graders in social studies.
That tracks. So if you don't know, Sumers and Sumerians were in the area between the Tigris and the Euphrates, Cradle and all that. So that Cradle Valley, it's one of the, like, if you go back to like your fourth grade history, I don't know if they called them Sumerians, but they like to talk about that space between the Tigris and Euphrates because of the rich culture that it had. But that's where Sumerians are. There you go. I think they're one of the earliest civilizations that we have like good records on.
I mean, earliest civilization is one thing, but what about one of the earliest entries in the city building simulation genre, Johnny?
Well, that's why I'm saying it makes sense. So it's like one of these it's an early computer game about an early civilization. And like that just tracks to me that's how it all lined up. I thought that was interesting. No one else cares. I'm just out here looking at the way these things connected.
No, I mean, we love the social studies facts here on the Collector's Quest.
Yeah. Everyone's
also
here for their third grade social studies. Hey, by the way, 1492, Columbus. Oh God, we can't even talk about Columbus anymore.
Johnny, why are you bringing politics into this?
I'm just telling you how I was taught. I'm not saying it's good or you should root for Columbus. You should not. But that was my third grade learning about the Tigris and the Euphrates and Christopher Columbus. Woo!
All right. Well, I had the same education, Johnny. That's why.
Did you?
I still know 1492. Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know how long ago that was canceled. Seems like Columbus was canceled a long time ago.
Johnny, while we were talking about this, I did remember.
You're not even going to look it up for me? Let's keep talking about Columbus.
When Columbus was canceled, what the fuck are you talking about? This is... I can't even get into it.
I know. I'm trolling. I'm kidding, guys. Relax. Just relax, Tyler. You can move on. I'm not going to force you to talk about this.
While we were talking about this, though, I realized that the Sumerian game, it was rewritten in BASIC by David All. And by realize this, I meant I went to the Wikipedia article and remembered it. But that BASIC version of the game was published in the mega hit book of computer games at the time of 1973, Basic Computer Games. That was the name of the book, which probably is the earliest realistic chance you have of owning that game. And of course I own that book. So you got to grasp what you can.
So you're like, I don't care about this Sumerian game. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I did once though. And I did buy it.
Yeah.
Covered my bases.
All right, Johnny. No one wants to hear about old games. I talk about old games enough. Let's talk about the most obvious form of game that we can't own, Johnny. The digital game. Johnny, ooh. The web game. The mobile game. There are... So as fleeting as these seem, there are games that I would want to own if I could. I own 2 different variants of the Angry Birds PC release just because I feel like I want to own something Angry Birds. It's not even that great. It's just like... Everyone played Angry Birds. It feels like something we should collect. I don't know.
I mean, you skipped over Farmville, though.
That's number one. Like, if I could own Farmville, absolutely. Yeah. Farmville fucking destroyed video games. Farmville is like a linchpin in, like, ruining the video game industry. I would love to own Farmville. So,
and just to clarify what Farmville was for people who may not understand... it wasn't just a mobile game. So, like, it's real easy to conceptualize mobile games now. Oh, yeah, I can see how all these moms and everything were sitting on their phones and clicking it. No, they weren't. They had to go to real computers and sit there to play and click through Farmville. It was crazy. It's crazy that it did so much damage when they had to do it on an actual computer, Tyler.
I mean, was Farmville pre-iPhone?
Yes.
Okay, like, yeah, Farmville was... I've never played Farmville, to be clear, but, like, you could look at it and immediately know, oh, it's a game with timers that forces you to come back multiple times a day and get addicted to it and put real money into it to speed up those timers. Oh, yeah, that's still something in mobile games now, and it's seeped into, like, AAA games somehow, and everything just has to grab your attention as long as possible to get you to pay for those microtransactions. Man, Farmville was such an important game.
So it did come out in 2000. It did come out in 2009. So I guess the iPhone and smartphone is out, but it's not fully populated at the level of success. Lots of people. This was like on Facebook were playing Farmville. This was where it was really centered, and this was like pre everyone doing it on their phone. So mobile phones were getting ubiquitous then, but like smartphones at that point still weren't. So just to to clarify when I say, oh yeah, wasn't really on the phone. Wasn't quite there.
Speaking of 2009, Johnny, some other games, when you go on like Reddit or something, I'm not talking about Reddit game collecting, just like go find some people in like their 20s and they're just super nostalgic for those early iPhone, early mobile game era. I guess Android counts here too, but like Cut the Rope, Fruit Ninja, Doodle Jump, Subway Surfers. Like I didn't even play most of these. The one with the jetpack Joyride, is it called? But like, I think all these games still exist, and they've probably turned into some kind of modern monetized form. But I mean, it's a really, I think, culturally important set of games, like these ultra popular mobile games. And once the servers are not going to last forever. I realize that these games have kind of evolved over time, and some may be on like some kind of life support. But eventually they will stop being updated for the latest version of whatever phones they're on. And it's weird that like such important games are just going to fade to history and there's nothing we could grab onto with them. Those are just more games I think of when it comes to the mobile games I would want to own.
I mean, people talk about like historically all the games that are lost to time were like, you know, just demos and that never made it, or games that were mostly complete and never came out, and like they really stress out about this. But the insane amount of mobile and PC games that are just going away and never, like, that will just be lost to time. And it's not just like games that didn't do well, like big games. It's a little weird, right?
I mean, yeah, like even like AAA PC games. I guess all that comes out on console. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it comes out on console. But like the disc is like whatever now. It's DRM. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I don't like it, Johnny. The only thing that makes it a little bit better. This still sucks for historians. Historians, you guys are fucked. I don't know how you're gonna deal with like a game that comes out and then it's patched over like 8 years and completely evolves into a different game. How does a historian even go back and begin analyzing a game like that? Good luck. The only thing that gives me hope is that like there's so many games, like there's an embarrassment of choices that like I'll never not have something to play. So I got some of that modern gamers mindset of just like, we just let everything rot. Something new will come out. Entertain me.
Well, why even do this episode? We can just let everything rot.
Yeah. What are we doing, Johnny? Let's go outside.
Yeah, we can be out in the sun.
And we're talking about video games. Johnny, no one's going to care about video games in 500 years. The human race might be extinct by then.
I know. So we should go out in the sun. I went out in the sun this week, and this is how bad I do in the sun. I was in the sun for the day. It wasn't particularly hot, but the sun was like on me. And I was sick the next day. I get sun sick. Like, I got sick that night. Just, I get sun sick as my body leaches the toxins that the sun gives me.
I don't know. I feel like that just means you need to spend more time outside. That seems like
you would think so, but this is my whole life. If I'm out in the sun for too long, I get sick.
I think you need to build up a tolerance. That seems like a good thing to build up a tolerance to. The star that keeps our planet alive. You should go check it out. That sounds pretty cool.
I'm not like dying from it, but I just don't feel good. Like
I don't know how to respond to it. It's just being out in the sun is like the thing that makes you feel good. You're like, once you're out in the sun for like an hour, you're like, man, this is great. Why do I spend all my time inside in front of a computer? And I'm still going to go back and do that for the rest of the week. But, being outside feels good, Johnny. I don't know. I guess it doesn't for you. That makes me sad. I'm sorry.
Nope. Yeah. Like, read up what sun poisoning is. Like, you just like, you get basically flu-like symptoms, and I get headaches and I get nauseous. Yeah, it's great. Like,
I hate this.
That's why I've said this story before. It's like where during football practice, I used to have an umbrella. Ridiculous, but true.
Johnny, we obviously don't need to go over every digital game that ever existed. There are a lot of them.
No, keep going. Let's talk about every day. Hey, did you know that Castlevania has a game that's lost to time, like 2 of them?
But like that doesn't matter. I mean, yes, there's going to be a bunch of like cool things that we could talk about.
I
I mean, but like, are we really losing any history to not have the stupid ass Castlevania games?
No, it's like way less important than Candy Crush. But it's also interesting that a game in a major franchise that's popular on consoles, like Castlevania, could just not exist. And also, like there's a Ninja Gaiden game. I didn't even know about this.
My friend showed me this today, and it kind of made me want to talk about or do this episode. In Japan, there was a feature phone game. It's Ninja Gaiden for NES. So like the real version of Ninja Gaiden on a shitty flip phone. And I just imagine like, you're playing this with a number pad at probably like 7 frames a second. Like, did anyone in the universe beat Ninja Gaiden on their phone, playing it with like half the width of the screen? It sounds pretty cool. Like, I don't want to play it. It sounds awful, yes. But usually when I see like some bullshit version of Ninja Gaiden like that, I'm like, oh, is it just like the beat 'em up or something? Because, Ninja Gaiden's an arcade game. But no, it's the real version of Ninja Gaiden. You get to play it on your shitty phone. It sounds excellent. But I can't own it, Johnny.
Why not?
I mean, because here's what I want to get into this. If I bought a phone from Japan that had Ninja Gaiden on it, I don't feel like I own Ninja Gaiden. Like, Gerard the Completionist went and bought every game from the Wii U and 3DS eShop. Like, I don't feel like he owns those games. Those consoles are worth the same that they would be worth without those games to me. Because it's just, it's bits sitting on the memory chips. That doesn't count to me, as hypocritical as it may be, because literally all my games are just bits sitting on some form of media. But the fact that he downloaded it means it doesn't count. Even they had the correct license keys and all that, fuck it, it doesn't count. But there are mobile games like Nokia Snake that are built into the phone. And so I feel like that does count, because I'm buying something that has the game built into the hardware already. And I like that. And there's the entire early history of mobile games you can kind of collect because of this reason. There's another popular early history of games phone, the Hoganaut MT2000, and it has a hidden version of Tetris in it. And it's one of those games that people thought was the first mobile game before they did more research. But, it's like in the first 3 phones that had a mobile game on it. So it's a little piece of history. You can go get that, and that's interesting. I like that, Johnny. But most of these mobile games... So
those ones count, even though it's just a bunch of bits on that thing anyways?
Yes. Because you got those bits when you bought the thing, so that counts.
That is a real fine line.
Because, no, look, I bought the Hoganaut MT2000, and I didn't. This phone costs like over $1,000, to be clear. It's very collectible by like mobile phone collectors, not by video game collectors.
It's so weird that you just said the word mobile phone collector. I know they exist, but that's
once you start looking
weird.
For like, oh, what are like cool mobile phones to like get interested in? Because if I wanted to collect like historical mobile games, you find the mobile phone collecting scene and like how much some people are paying for like some of these weird ass rare phones. You're just crazy people, Johnny. Absolutely nuts. We're crazy. They're like on another level. What is wrong with you?
Okay.
You're collecting cell phones.
Look, I've told you, people collect bags like backpacks. We went over the Loungefly collections. What about popcorn buckets? There are people, not like only a couple weirdos. There are a lot of people who collect popcorn buckets, dude.
What are you talking about?
And they are stressing out over the Mario.
The Mario, like they go to the theater and they'll get like a 2023 Super Mario Brothers movie popcorn bucket and be like,
they will, but a lot of these people are Disney collectors and they collect Disney specific popcorn buckets.
So when I buy like a can of Mountain, I almost get cans. Cans are kind of beautiful as a piece of engineering. But like if they say like the limited edition, you get a limited edition big refillable soft drink cup. Like people are collecting those. Those are like real limited editions to somebody.
Yeah. Here, Tyler, if you've never seen a Disney popcorn bucket collection, you're missing out. I'm going to paste you just a couple of things, some couple images so you can understand. And everyone else should take this time, if you're at a computer, just look at popcorn bucket collections. It's wild. You're just like,
I hate everything about this.
And this is just to illustrate that people collect everything. It's just whatever you think that people don't collect, as weird as I'm like, oh man, people collect weird mobile phones. That's weird. If they're collecting popcorn buckets, we're people who like to collect things and nest, and we're everywhere, and that's why a show like Collector's Quest can work and people will listen to it, because people collect things. It's not just video games. Whatever your weird hobby is, there's a thing for it. Like, I'm going to go collect these records with my friend, and I know I'm going to like find a YouTube channel where some guy, this is his whole life, and he's just going to show me hundreds of awesome things I could buy.
This is Disney people. What is going on? All right. To be clear, because I got the wrong impression here. These are like collectible popcorn buckets that people buy at like Disney parks. Like, they are like plastic molded things, not like throwaway cardboard buckets they got at AMC.
Yeah, but I did show you the special tins that are like AMC tins and plastic ones. And there's a collection of those too. People collect both of these things.
Stop collecting
I'm sure Disney
stuff. Guys,
popcorn.
What are we doing?
Like, their whole room, like, oh man, it's just gotta stink.
I mean, I imagine the purest popcorn bucket collector would never buy a used popcorn bucket. I only want that new, old stock, fresh, plastic smelling popcorn bucket.
Look, a lot of people can't make it to Disneyland to meet the releases for this. So I'm sure that a lot of people, just like anything, resellers are, a boon, that are out there.
All right. I hate this. I hate that. I'm almost okay with the tin ones. So to be clear, word picture, the tin ones, they're like a little foot long, like big cup.
They're metal trash cans.
It's a little tiny trash can, basically. Like, you could clean that theoretically. It's probably made of steel or something, or aluminum. But like these plastic molded ones, you're going to put popcorn in these and there's all these nooks and crannies. Like, you'll never get that clean. So what?
You could get it.
I mean, yeah.
A little bit of vinegar.
All right,
vinegar,
but it's still
water.
plastic.
It'll be clean.
Plastic is porous. It's going to absorb something, and then your room is going to smell a little bit like popcorn.
Yeah. Anyways, here's a fun exercise too. If you haven't done it already, put in popcorn bucket and into eBay and sort by high and in solds and see what you see.
Just tell me, Johnny. I'm not doing any more work on popcorn bucket collecting.
You don't want to do any more work? Okay. Here's the high. Well, there's a really expensive one that was like for Scream 6, which is a Ghostface one that goes for like $100 to $200. Figment Bedazzled goes for about $2,400. I don't know if that's custom. There was a minion eating a banana that went for almost $200.
I mean that banana minion one was recalled because there was this lady that complained about the sexual connotations of a minion eating a banana, or maybe it was actually cannibalistic connotations. I understand that one's rare.
Oh, see, I don't know anything about that. Also, if you don't know that minions love fucking bananas, it's their whole shtick through all of the Despicable Me movies.
Is it?
Like, oh, this is
I don't agree. I've only seen Despicable Me 1. I don't remember there being a significant banana theme in that movie.
Yes, all right. The Minions' favorite food is bananas. Okay. Banana. Like the whole time. Like, what are you talking about? You don't know this?
This movie did not have as much of an impression on me as it would on a 4-year-old. So maybe you're right.
I've had to watch a lot of Despicable Me. So, yes. Go look. Anyways, there's like a Jurassic Park one that sold for like $200. These weren't even specifically Disney ones. That stupid D21 from the Dungeons and Dragons movie, I think that one's fetching close to $100 right now. It's crazy. The world is crazy. They love popcorn buckets.
All right. I hate this.
So next time you go to Disneyland and you buy one of these things, before you get home and you're like, what am I going to do with this trash? I don't know, maybe wash it out and check eBay first.
Johnny, I'll like quickly touch on just a couple other games that kind of irk me that I can't own. One is Dwarf Fortress, which has been around forever. Apparently only since 2006, but maybe that's like when I got interested in indie games. Probably because everyone got interested in indie games around when Braid came out, and that was like 2008 or something. Yeah. But yeah, Dwarf Fortress, this huge construction management simulation game, influenced games like Minecraft, and there's this whole kind of PC subgenre with games like RimWorld on it now. Its big thing was that it's text-based and very complicated, so you look like a cool Linux hacker when you're playing it. Just a game that it's like an influential little indie game, and it annoys me that it's digital only. And then, Johnny, RuneScape. Obviously, I love RuneScape. The thing, it's not that you can't own RuneScape, it's that you can own almost every other MMO. Because throughout the 90s, the model, like, there was no, like, free-to-play Java MMO. That's what made RuneScape huge. You bought the game for money, and then you continued to pay $15 a month to keep playing it, which was madness. But that madness means that there's a box for EverQuest, for World of Warcraft, for Ultima Online, for Neverwinter Nights, which came out in like 1992. You can get on all that was like an AOL game, and there's still like an amazing box that's like a $1,000 game now. The original Neverwinter Nights, not the one that you actually know and have played. Yeah, Johnny, it just you can get a RuneScape strategy guide. That's it.
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Is it expensive?
It's like $6. And everything in it is wrong, even for the time. It's a horrible strategy guide.
What not to do in RuneScape? Excellent.
I mean, you've played like World of Warcraft and stuff. You ever buy a strategy guide and look through it? Like I played Lord of the Rings online, and I had a strategy guide for it. And like, you know, it's probably like there's some lag in between publishing and all that. But it was like probably 8 months after the guy wrote it, and everything was already out of date. Like there was some real basic stuff that's like how to do the quest, which, guy, I'm playing an MMO. I follow the quest marker. I know how to do that. But it gives me like strategies and stuff. Like, this isn't how you make money anymore. What are you talking about, dude? No? You never had a good old MMO strategy guide?
No, never.
Oh, man.
That's real weird.
Well, you see, like now it's so obvious. Now it's just like, just go to the wiki. Every game has a wiki. You just look at everything on the wiki. But when there was like a game I really wanted to be invested in, and really the only games were MMOs, like I wanted the physical book. I thought it would be cool to look through a physical book. Now, when we have a wiki where everything is up to date and changes every week, like it makes so much more sense. But I liked having the book.
All right. I mean, I just I've heard you shit on strategy guides before, so that's weird to me.
Oh, yeah, don't buy strategy guides. I only have this because RuneScape was just a huge part of my life, so I wanted to have the one thing I could buy for $6.
Okay, fair enough.
Johnny, next category. Things you cannot buy. This is something that you technically can buy, but you're not going to find it. It is handmade releases. And I don't think this applies to modern games like Homebrew, because even like the most desirable earliest Homebrew releases like Garage Kart for the NES, which is the first NES Homebrew physical game that was made. I think they made 26 of them. Is that correct? I don't know.
Something like that. Not a lot. Very collectible, very expensive still for what it is.
Yes. Like the people have Wata graded their copies of Garage Kart. I bet if you threw out the correct number of thousands of dollars, because I'm sure this is worth more than $1,000, because it used to be worth probably $1,000, you could probably find someone with it. But back in like the 70s or the 80s, there were some of these games, especially like microcomputer games, where they had this amazing medium called a floppy disk. And the thing with a floppy disk is you could go to CompUSA and you could pick up a pack of 10 and you could write a game on your Commodore 64 and you could start packaging up those floppy disks into Ziploc bags and selling them. And there are some really important games that sold not a lot of copies because of that. And you could think of like the early... like the early version of like a Calibeth for I don't know, probably Apple II. But a Calibeth, Richard Garriott's game that he made before Ultima. So this is a weird case because a Calibeth obviously had a bunch of re-releases, and then Richard Garriott has the materials he used to make the game. So technically, like, he has put together copies since then, but there were only like a very few amount of copies sold back in the 80s. A better example, my favorite example, the original Falcom games, so Nihon Falcom, who makes like the East series and, you know, Tales of Destiny. I don't know, what does Falcom make now? All these stupid anime games. But Falcom was a computer shop in Japan, like selling computer hardware, and they got into games, and they would like their very first games, when you went into their store to buy their game, they would burn a floppy for you. It wasn't burning. They would write a floppy for you and then sell you the game like that. So it was literally like made to order video games. And their first game was Galactic Wars for the PC-88, 1982. I thought this game was unownable, but apparently one of these Japanese preservation societies tracked down a copy of the game and like paid a shitload of money to get the guy to dump it. So there's stuff like this that is technically ownable, but there are so few copies that exist that even finding one is basically impossible. Two more examples I thought of. The original Toho Project game, which is a shooter series. It's more than that series, but it's a popular series of bullet hell shooters. I think the first game is like this little doujin game that was, like made and distributed independently, like hand-to-hand, face-to-face kind of thing. It sold like 15 copies. So yeah, you can't own that. And a game I was recently looking for before I immediately realized I will never find it, The Forest for TRS-80, kind of findable on the ZX Spectrum. The original TRS-80 release sold 8 copies. I brought that up on the show.
Jeez.
I bought a ZX Spectrum version of that. Yeah, Johnny, if you find a copy of The Forest, I'm in the market. And you know what, Johnny, I'm the only one in the market, so I'm not going to pay a lot for it.
That's not true. I have Forest still on a couple of my save searches because Forest 2 has a better cover, but Forest also has pretty good, like, Halloween-y cover.
Johnny, what are you talking about? This game, just so you know, The Forest does not have a cover. It is a blank dark green folder with black text on it that's barely readable. Oh, it feels so bootleg and made in a garage. I love it.
No. Nope.
All right, Johnny, you got any handmade releases that you think about a lot that you can't own?
Yeah. Let me get into the handmade releases that I really think about. Nope. This is, this required computers and stuff, and as a poor kid, I don't really think about computers.
Johnny, you know what that leads into? Another annoying thing about computers is that when someone makes a game and sells it and prints it on a physical medium to the point where you can own it, it is never the first game that they have actually made, because they gotta gain their skills somehow. No one makes their first crappy game in BASIC and they're like, wow, I made Blackjack and it's entirely text-based. I could sell this. Some people, I'm sure, did that and actually sold their games to magazines. But developer firsts, Johnny. This is something I actually realized while we were recording an episode of Collector's Quest, that like a Wikipedia article was updated, and I wanted the first Sid Meier game. I'm looking for like a bunch of these like weird little kind of historical nothings that like no one cares what the first Sid Meier game is. The first commercial Sid Meier game, if you want to know, it's Formula 1 for the Atari 400. It's just a racing game no one cares about. But then I was on Sid Meier's Wikipedia article during an episode of Collector's Quest, and it got updated, and his first game listed there now is Bank Game 1, which is a game that Sid Meier
wrote.
We're
talking to about this.
Yeah, it's a game he wrote for a fucking bank. Like, it's not a physical release or anything. He just, like, wrote it, and, like, just thinking about stuff like that is like, what the fuck is Formula 1, the first commercial release? It isn't even the first work he did for money. So it's nothing. It's the first retail release. Sure. Like, we're already, like, thinking of the first retail release Sid Meier game is already such, like, a ridiculous, like, concept. But knowing that there's things that came before it and, like, real things that were sold for money, it drives me nuts. And, like, not that owning the first Sid Meier game is something that anyone should care about to begin with, but the fact that, like, there is one, but, like, it so clearly isn't. Because it's not even, like, the game he made, programming in high school while he was learning how to program. It's something that he sold for money to a fucking bank.
Why are you so angry?
And you just run into
Is it
stuff
because
like
you
this.
can't collect
Because when
it?
you look at, like, if you go at, like, Shigeru Miyamoto, like, what's his first game listed? Is it, like, Sheriff, the arcade game? Like, you're not going to buy a Sheriff arcade cabinet. So that's, like, the fucking Stanley of video games. You can't even own, like, his first Nintendo game. That drives me crazy. It's his first listed notable work. Whatever, it counts, Sheriff. Go buy a Sheriff arcade cabinet, Johnny. Have a big, ugly, Western-themed... Oh, I can't call it ugly because he was the artist for that game.
So, we're going to get into the next one after this, which is games where only a lesser version is available, which brings up things like, not Sheriff, but other arcade cabinets. You didn't write it in here, but I think a lot of games where people settle for console releases when the arcade is was the real one. Like a lot of these arcade cabinets went away. We talk about this relatively frequently, but it is a phenomenon of games that you could collect, but a lot of arcade cabinets, got repurposed or destroyed or lost to time now. So they're not that easy to collect or aren't even available anymore. And I know you have, like, we talk about, like, the Red Donkey Kong cabinet a lot, but that's not, we don't need to go deep down that well. We talk about it a lot.
Yeah, but I like this idea, because I think arcade cabinets are kind of borderline for the most part. I mean, it's pretty available to get an arcade cabinet. Like, if KO Flying Squadron is a $4,000 video game now, like, you could get a lot of classic arcade games that cost less than that. But I do think there is an unobtainability sense in like how big they are, and that you have to settle for something.
Also,
else.
some like we know a lots were repurposed and some were just destroyed, especially if they didn't do well. Like they only produced a couple, just gone now. Old pinball machines the same way, just gone. Like they're not coming back.
Sure. I mean, Johnny, that's our next category. Bring something up. What's a game where only a lesser version is available to collect?
Well, Minecraft comes to mind. Fortnite, these two games, prolific games that exist, but what version can you get, Tyler? Like, people scramble for Minecraft, and they want to pay money. Every release of Fortnite, even if it's just a case that says DLC only inside digital code, they still want to pay big money, like, relatively for these things. I don't understand this, because these aren't even the real versions. Minecraft was just a game that was released on the computer. You could download it. Now we have, like, console versions, and there is no getting the actual version.
Yeah, and these kind of drive me crazy because, like, I would definitely want to own, like, a real version of both of these, like, ideally a PC release of both of these. Sorry, everyone. I don't know if Fortnite... I'm sure Fortnite was a PC thing before it was a mobile thing. But yeah, like, the hot version of Minecraft is Minecraft Xbox 360 edition. And I'm sure, like, if you gave that to a kid who plays Minecraft now, they would just be like, what the fuck is this shit? Where's all my Minecraft shit? Because I'm sure it doesn't have, like, half the shit that's in the game.
Oh, not at all.
And it's also not the first version of the game. It's just, like, this weird middle thing, and I hate it. I have the version I'm supposed to have. You got to go find the version that has a 2-week Xbox Live trial on the back of it. Or is it 2 months? It's probably 2 weeks. And then you have to find the one that actually has the stupid trial card in it. So this game doesn't have a manual. So if you buy just a regular copy of this game, it just feels like garbage. Man, games without manuals feel like garbage, especially because it comes in an eco case. So you really need to find one with the trial insert.
It feels
and
bad.
There's like 500 copies on eBay, and probably like 6 of them will have the be like the right version. So it takes a bunch of hunting to get the right version for that. And then sealed, they sell for like $4,000.
So along this line, I want to bring up DLC. So lots of games that we have, like, we don't even have the complete version of games anymore because they'll get DLC. Sometimes there'll be like a DLC card at Target or wherever that you can get. But a lot of these DLCs, if they don't get a Game of the Year edition or whatever, those things are also, it's not a lesser version of the game, but the game you can buy is not even the complete thing anymore, especially if it's like actual content and not just a skin that they release. Okay, they release like a level pack or something, but never package that into anything. You only have the lesser version of the game available to you now because of DLC. So if everything goes away and all the servers go down and you can only take the data off a disk, we have these versions of games. We know there's better out there, and they just don't exist for us to purchase.
Is there like one DLC, especially one that doesn't have a physical release that you could think of that was like, man, that really added to the game. That really was like amazing. Every DLC I played is like, oh, I could see why they cut this and made it DLC. Or if it's really good, then it's like a game, you know, it's a Borderlands or BioShock or whatever that get their Mass Effect that gets turned into a Game of the Year edition, and like because they want that stuff to be like a big upsell. But like this is kind of early on in the DLC life cycle, but the one that really killed it for me was the Prince of Persia remake. Prince of Persia, this fucking video game, like the 2009-ish video game, it ends on a cliffhanger. They made you buy like a $15 DLC, and then the DLC ends on a fucking cliffhanger. It's the most. And then I was like done buying DLC at that point.
Wait, which Prince of Persia? Not like you're not talking about original Prince of Persia. You're talking about like
it's called
after
Prince
the
of
Sands
Persia.
of Time.
They did the Final Destination thing where they just named it the same.
Oh god damn it!
Yeah.
So this was after because they did like 3 Sands of Times. Then they did like one Xbox exclusive one. Is that the Xbox exclusive one? I can't remember.
Is it exclusive? I don't think it's exclusive. I mean, it might be.
No, there's
it's
one
called
I thought
Prince
that
of
was. Like,
what can I tell you? I told you the title of the video game.
I know. It's just I'm struggling to remember it, but that is very lame. I was done. Like I really like Sands of Time. I like that whole trilogy, and then they did the next one, and I was out on it.
I think it's weird how much Prince of Persia there is. Like Prince of Persia is obviously a very cool game, like the original Prince of Persia, and then a huge resurgence in the 2000s of like more way cool Prince of Persia games. And if you ask people to list video game franchises, you could have them list 200 franchises. Not a single person would list Prince of Persia.
I mean, it even got a movie. It was so popular, it got a movie from Disney.
Am I crazy?
It has
like
Lego
Prince
sets.
of Persia more popular than I'm giving it credit for? Like, I know people love like Sands of Time and Warrior Within and all that, but who the fuck thinks about Prince of Persia? I've never had a conversation with anyone except about maybe Sands of Time and like how cool Sands of Time is. But as a franchise, I've never heard someone ask me, what's your favorite Prince of Persia game?
It's weird. We talk about video games a lot. I don't know if we've talked about Prince of Persia, and I really like Sands of Time. And like I said, so popular, it got a movie. It got Lego sets, Tyler. That's how popular Prince of Persia is.
All right, maybe I'm just crazy. People really hate how much we get off topic
I kind of agree with you.
Johnny,
People,
by the way.
What's that?
People really hate how much we get off topic sometimes and start complaining about like the nebulous status of Prince of Persia as a popular series.
Oh, well, they're going to hate this episode then. Sorry, those people. Tune into the next one. We'll try to do better.
Johnny, speaking of the Sands of Time, there are entire hardware platforms that have been lost to time.
Nope. Everything exists forever.
And these, I don't mourn these. Like, it would be cool to have some unique piece of hardware that no one has anymore. I don't think about owning these very much, but it's just another category I thought of. The one that really sticks out to me is in the 90s or early 2000s. It was whenever Batman and Robin the Chiller had just been built at Six Flags Great Adventure. They had a kiosk, and it was a VR kiosk. The whole idea was like you pay them, $10 and you get to play like 20 minutes of VR. And I think I held a physical gun and they put a gigantic headset over me, and it was pretty much Unreal Tournament. And it was super cool. Like, I have no idea. It must have been running on some kind of computer. I'm sure it was a computer game of some kind. But that game does not exist. No one... I mean, maybe that headset setup is sitting in a warehouse somewhere, but there is no way for me to own that game, even though it was a memorable enough part of my childhood that I'm still talking about it right now, probably 20 years later. And that was a game I played for 20 minutes once. It'd be cool to own, but that hardware is just gone. Stefan's version of that would be his BattleTech pods, which, oh sure, there are 12 of them still in the world. Unless you're Stefan and getting a storage unit for that garbage, or I guess converting your entire garage, that essentially doesn't exist.
Yeah, they're gone. I mean, this went into a little bit what I was saying about some arcade experiences too, like cabinets and things. Imagine how much stuff is going to be lost from like the big weird machines we now have in Dave and Buster's, which just connect to the internet to be updated and played. Those things, they're not surviving.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, yes, they're not going to survive, but I think it's going to be more of a who wants that shit. Like a lot of that's just like ticket games, and people don't collect ticket games because there's no the average ticket game. It kind of has like a payout limit sort of thing, where like no matter how good you are, you'll only win it like 10% of the time because it wants you to lose 9 times before it gets easy enough to win again that someone will realistically win. And if you're someone who's owning a game to try to get good at it, it's more fun to play a game that is just fair and the same every time. Speaking of those Dave & Buster's games, though, Doodle Jump, Fruit Ninja, and maybe Angry Birds Cut the Rope, like all of those became Dave & Buster's games. So technically, you can own some of that stuff. And I bet those arcade versions are getting to be old enough where you could find them at arcade auctions now.
That's weird. It's weird to think that Dave & Buster games might be in arcade auctions now.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what does Dave & Buster's do with their old games? You know, maybe it's not going to easily show up in arcade auctions because how many of those games could they actually be selling? Like, there's probably one Fruit Ninja machine that ever sold anywhere in the realm of Simi Valley. So what are the chances that one machine is going to show up at your local arcade auction?
Well, we live in the Los Angeles area, so maybe better than that, but maybe not terrible, but not great. Still not great.
So speaking of all those mobile games, the other one that I could think of that became a big arcade game was the one with the swords. I guess that was a pretty popular game. What was the game with the swords? It was like literally because it was 3D, people were like, "Whoa, a 3D phone game." No, see, it doesn't matter. It matters so little that neither of us can think of it. So who cares?
I don't even know. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It was like it was a touchscreen sword fighting game that had some amount of skill required. It was a semi-big game at the time. No one cares. I can't think of it. Johnny.
And I have no idea what you're... Anyways, tell me more about these platforms that are lost to time.
I just had 2 more examples. Johnny, the Sega R360, speaking of arcade games that you can't play anymore, this was basically an amusement park ride. So this was it was like a pod that you sit in and you played like flight simulation games. And not only would it tilt you forward, back, side to side, you could go like completely upside down. It was full 360-degree rotation. Like, like concentric spheres that if you stuck your hand in, it would chop off your arm. This game needed, it like had a shitload of like safety sensors and shit. And it needed an attendant to actually run the game to make sure like kids didn't kill themselves. Because you had to like be strapped into this shit. Super cool. I think there's like 3 that exist still on planet Earth. One, I think, is at the Galloping Ghost. I don't know if they have it up and running, but like they actually tracked one down.
You should say what the Galloping Ghost is, because not everyone understands.
Oh, Galloping Ghost, it's an arcade somewhere in the Midwest in one of those states that doesn't matter. One of the bigger classic arcades in America.
Yeah, it's very popular.
Yes. There was a time in my life, Johnny, I'm sure I said this on Collector's Quest, where I was living in an apartment at a time and I was like about to buy a house and I'm like, should I try to find a Sega R360 and see if I can restore it? That was a very optimistic time in my life where I thought I was probably fixing pinball machines at the time. I'm like, if I could fix a pinball machine, I could fix an amusement park ride. To run a Sega R360, one, you can't find them. They just don't exist anymore because they were like, I saw estimates that they might have cost arcades like over $100,000 to buy them, or like $250,000 for an arcade game. But it might have made it back because it was like $5 a play. But you would also need to modify your residential electricity. It takes like so much power to run this that like you can't even plug it into like multiple dryer ports. I don't know how it works. Anyway, so you basically just can't play that anymore.
Also, while you're fixing it, you probably lose your arm, so that's cool.
Yeah, also, like, oh, what's broken on it? Oh, the safety sensors? Oh, great, I'm chopped in half. Yeah. Must be terrifying.
And this is nothing to do with anything, but Sega R360 sounds like the least collectible console ever created if you think about Sega systems and then 360 together. Just like, also, it's a naming convention that makes sense in the Xbox world. Because, like if you look at the names of Xbox consoles, it's trash. So Sega R360 makes as much sense as anything else. Anyways, go on. That was a funny tangent in my brain. Tell me about this thing, because I don't know what this is. Tell me about Science Museum Shark.
Johnny, I think when I'm thinking of like nostalgic things, like not that I'd want to collect, but I just think about the nostalgic games that I've played in my life. Johnny, I went to a science museum once, and it wasn't even that long ago. It was maybe like 15 years ago. They had some kind of experience where, like, I don't know, we went to like a planetarium or some science museum bullshit. And then afterwards, everybody lined up and went into a room, and this room had like 40 computers in it. It was literally a LAN party. And we all played essentially Shark. I think Feeding Frenzy is like the PopCap version of Shark. So everybody's a fish, and you eat smaller fish to get bigger. And it was a 40-player multiplayer version of that. And then while we were all playing on our individual screens, there was one big, it wasn't like IMAX, but like a big screen on the front wall that showed the entire aquarium. Like, I have no idea what this is. This must have been like some custom computer game with some custom LAN party setup where we were learning about food chains at a science museum. But it was fucking cool. It was like a big like 40-person experience. And Johnny, there's no way this thing does not exist anymore. It's just a neat thing that I thought of in life when I'm thinking of like games that are lost to history. But like, there's no way to collect something like that, obviously.
No, that's the other thing. For people who are thinking about this, people love games. Humans love games. We put games everywhere we can. And once we entered this age where video games are a thing and existed, we've been stashing them in things for as long as we can. Museums, all our other examples here. Like, there's so many games. If you just think, oh, games are on consoles and arcades, that's not just where games exist. So just things like this pop up all over the place. So this one museum has it. Think about all these other like displays and stuff that have had these games codified into them that we don't even know about to talk about. That are just going to be lost to time.
So Joe is doing his categorization system for games and just basically trying to think of platforms, like just entire hardware platforms that he hasn't thought of yet. But you think of like, if you get on a Delta flight, there's probably some kind of multiplayer game built into like the back of the seat on the screen. Like, what is that? Like, there's just like nonsense like that you have to think of.
You can play video poker with other people on the plane.
Exactly. And I'm sure like all of that is Android now, so there's like some kind of standardization to it. But in like the 2000s, throughout the 2000s, how many like custom weird Windows CE platform games were there?
That's what I was trying to allude to, that there's just so much stuff like, hey, guess what? This refrigerator has a screen on it now, so we put a dumb game in it. Like, what? What are we doing here?
Do you have the full set of Frigidaire games?
I don't know. But this is like because humans love games, and that's what I was trying to point out. So we think of, a lot of times we just box our thoughts off to here's where games exist, and that's not true. Like Tyler just gave you an example of flying in a plane. You're flying in a plane, and there's a game there that no one can collect, unless what do you buy the
Elon
Delta
Musk
seat?
Could buy that plane.
Yeah, you could buy that plane, but like. Do you buy it like when they're ripping those seats out? Do you buy the Delta set? And is that like is that programmed into that, or is that like from like deep within the plane? Is it built into the set? Like, I don't know how that works. Do you?
So you're just making me think like there are these like Facebook groups of just like people who collect the most obscure video game consoles, and I could just imagine someone being like, dude, I just got back from the auction, I got a Delta seat, oh my god, it's got the multiplayer Bejeweled built into the headrest.
It's gonna look so good with my Atlantic.
Thing that someone would freak out over, because I'm sure like who owns that in their collection?
Yeah, it's gonna go so well with my Atlantic ones. Oh, these are really cherry, really good looking ones, guys. Hardly any damage.
Johnny, next thing you mostly can't collect, historic mods. And I say historic mods because there are a lot of extremely popular genres, especially esports, that were born out of modifications to other games. And hold on, Johnny, for our younger listeners, before like everything cost money, people would just make modifications and add-ons to game for free and then give them to you for free on the internet. And then if they were multiplayer games, people would host the servers for free, and you just played an online game, an online modification to a retail game on someone else's server, and it was entirely free, and the world was wonderful, and it was called the 90s and early 2000s, and everyone was happy before Xbox 360 came and ruined everything.
When was this magical time? It existed? This is real?
Johnny, Counter-Strike.
No.
That one is a kind of. Because Counter-Strike did get a retail release, but the original mod you're not getting the mod, you're getting the standalone version of Counter-Strike, which kind of whatever, because that's close enough. This wasn't like a much later in life kind of thing. Counter-Strike became so popular that they kind of immediately packaged and released it as a commercial game. But other ones,
but
Team
that's
Fortress
wild. That's like, it's wild that it was that popular. That they're like,
I mean, that feels like such
this.
a Wild West thing to do. That would that happen now ever? Like, I know Valve was like cool company back then, but like, imagine like making like Zelda Maker. Like they have like Mario Maker. Someone makes a Zelda Maker, and Nintendo's like, that's fucking awesome. We're gonna package that as our own video game and sell it. We love it. No, they would fucking cease and desist the shit out of anything cool you do.
Well, and even if they did, could you imagine the fan outrage? Like, oh, they like ripped him off. This was this guy's thing. And like, man, they would be Twitter destroyed immediately.
But they'd probably make like $1 billion just by ripping off that guy. Like gamers,
I know
gamers don't have any like sense of moral in that kind of sense. Like they have gamer outrage, which is like, sure, gamer outrage is very strong, but gamer willingness to open up their wallet is stronger than gamer outrage.
Absolutely. I'm not saying they wouldn't, but I'm just saying, like, they took like basically no publicity hit for doing this, right? I don't know if the person was well compensated, but could you imagine now, like, just the thought process? Even if they had paid the person who made the mod, they'd be like, yeah, can't make their own stuff, need us fans to do it for them. Like, there would just be a bunch of negative bullshit criticism that would exist just because of this. And now Counter-Strike, like, no one talks about Counter-Strike, and like the negative I hear from Counter-Strike is, man, don't talk to anyone in the Counter-Strike community because they're shitheads. But that's the only thing I ever hear about it. You know, we're not talking about Valve. Like, people aren't like, oh man, they really fucked up Counter-Strike.
What? I'm still stuck on you saying no one talks about Counter-Strike.
No, in that regard, not that no one talks about Counter-Strike.
Right.
Yeah. No, obviously, we're talking about one of the most popular, like, shooters ever. Like, obviously, people talk about Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike 2's coming out. There's like already 2 sequels to Counter-Strike, but who cares? Counter-Strike 2's coming out.
Man, we should do an episode on names that went wrong. Like number conventions that don't make sense, and you can collect them.
I kind of like it. That would be a good episode. I kind of like how they're just like, so here's the timeline of Counter-Strike. It's Counter-Strike, the retail release, Counter-Strike Condition Zero, Counter-Strike Source, Counter-Strike Neo, Counter-Strike Online, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, that's a big one, kind of Counter-Strike 3, Counter-Strike Online 2, Counter-Strike Nexen Zombies, that sounds like a mobile game, and then Counter-Strike 2. I like the balls of them pretending that like Counter-Strike Go was not like one of the most popular games ever.
Like, yeah, now you guys can finally play the long-awaited sequel to Counter-Strike.
All right, Johnny, we're talking about Counter-Strike as if you can't own it. You literally can own it. Counter-Strike has a big box release. So the Half-Life, the Game of the Year version of Half-Life, and then the expansion packs, Blue Shift, oh my God, Opposing Force, and Counter-Strike, they form like this set of 4 games. They all have the same box style, and it's like green, orange, blue, and yellow, and they look awesome together. So yeah, go buy that retail version of Counter-Strike. But Team Fortress Classic, Johnny, Quake mod, harbinger of like the super popular Team Fortress 2, kind of obviously, like really popular style of team-based multi-class gameplay. Dota, we've talked about Dota and whatever the fuck this genre is, but Defense of the Ancients started as a mod. You can own Warcraft, but you can't own Dota. And then Player Unknown's Battle Royale, Johnny. Before PUBG, before Fortnite, the Battle Royale was just a mod made by some guy named Player Unknown. PUBG was so popular, I'm sure this guy got paid for it. But yeah, this was just like a free mod. So like the original thing that really kicked off the entire insane Battle Royale genre is like you can't really own it. And I'm annoyed enough that I can't own like the real version of Fortnite, whatever that would be. But then again, I'm also annoyed that I can't own this kind of like real first thing either. So kind of on both fronts, they're screwing me on the Battle Royale genre.
You are so sad. I'm sorry.
Johnny, what else you got?
Well, there's another category, Tyler. Well, this is going to be, I think, more in the wheelhouse of some of our listeners. Impossible rares. So you could technically own these. They're not completely impossible, but the price might be so ridiculous, or the limitation of them is so great that basically impossible. Like Nintendo Campus Challenge. You ever heard of this one, Tyler?
I sure have. We're talking about the NES one,
yeah?
Campus Challenge 1991?
I mean, you could... I was thinking more of the Super Nintendo one, where it's just open-faced circuit board.
Right?
Yeah, PowerFest Campus Challenge. I'm thinking of the cycle of these. But yes, there are some competition carts where so few, and it's not like the Nintendo World Championship Bray or even the Blockbuster competition cart from Genesis. Like these ones literally like what, one or two surface, and that's all we have of them, Tyler?
I mean, yeah.
And Campus Challenge, do we even have known Campus Challenge? I can't remember.
I mean, back in the 2000s, J.J. Hendricks had the one known copy of Campus Challenge, I think. Yeah. I don't know if he still has it now or what. I'm sure a bunch of people...
There has been a repro of it. Yeah, they must have, because they did like a repro of that where you could buy Campus Challenge 91. And that what did that have on it? It had Super Mario 3, Dr. Mario, and Pinbot or something?
Pinbot, baby, yeah!
What a weird... Pinbot is such a weird inclusion.
That is so weird. Like, you can understand the Super Mario Brothers to Rad Racer to Tetris. It's like, oh yeah, that's a bunch of like Nintendo games and like a bunch of different genres, but fucking Pinbot?
Pinbot, a port of a pinball game? What is happening in this world? And anyways, that Campus Challenge, it went pretty long. It went from like 1990 to like 92, right? And then until we got to Campus Challenge?
Yeah, so, all right. I got the timeline a little bit wrong, because you're right. There was the Campus Challenge 91 was NES. Campus Challenge 92 was Super Nintendo. That was Super Mario World F-Zero Pilot Wings. Much better lineup of games. And then...
they make a lot more sense together.
Yeah, and then PowerFest was 94, which is the Retro Gem Miners hat. So the PowerFest 90... or the Campus Challenge 92 and the PowerFest 94, those are like gigantic honking PCBs for some reason, but they're like the size of the console. Like, it's like a Nintendo PlayStation. There's one, but you can't own it.
Which is, that's also an interesting collectible to bring up, like, prototype consoles. Like, what is it? The Neptune? The Sega Neptune? Do you know the Sega Neptune?
Yeah, like I think, was that for sale? That also might have been for sale in one of these high-end auctions.
Yeah, I think like one exists, and but not really. Like, you can't really collect it. But just to get back to the Nintendo PowerFest 94, that was Super Mario's The Lost Levels, Mario Kart, and Ken Griffey Jr. And this was mainly... So these were like these challenges. The other ones went through campuses. PowerFest was like in a trailer outside of department stores is where you could play this thing. So anyways, yeah, it was run on a regular Super Nintendo with this big modified brick on top of it, and you can't really buy them. So there was also Nintendo World Championship 2 and then the most recent one. Was that Nintendo World Championship 2 that we just did like a couple years ago? Remember they went through like Best Buys and stuff?
Did that finish? Was there someone crowned for that? All I remember was
I
that
don't-
there was Thomas Gonda. Congratulations, Mr. Guy. My friend like trained in Mario Kart for like weeks, and then his local event got canceled or postponed or something, and he wasn't able to compete. I felt so bad for him.
So PowerFest, so we'll just get this up. PowerFest, they said 33 cartridges were actually made and only 2 exist. And the second one that was uncovered was by J.J. Hendricks, who purchased it for $12,000.
That seems like such a ridiculously good deal by modern prices. And it was probably the dumbest purchase ever made by like when he bought it probably 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, so one was actually listed at auction for $300,000 and no one bid on it, but I don't have the date of when that auction was. But now that games are getting dumb, like, you know, it's interesting that there are 33 but only 2 exist. Like the Blockbuster World Championship card, there are at least 10 that exist, but those were all supposed to be destroyed.
Cool. Go get these,
anyways.
guys. They're out there.
Yeah. But there are more games. So these were some impossible rares. And I said 10 for the Blockbuster Challenge. I don't know. That's not an exact number. It could be as low as like 6, high as 12. You guys will have to do more research on that one. And that research is like following people who say they own them and then making sure that that one wasn't sold to the next guy who says he owns it, because that's how you research this stuff. And it's like a lot of it is just word of mouth, and a lot of these things are just buried and gone. But there are more, Tyler. There's other impossible rares. Can you tell me about another?
I just want to comment on what you're saying. The Blockbuster World Championships 2 is so funny because there is so much paraphernalia around Nintendo World Championships. Like people own like their little, press badges and like pamphlets and shit. And there's such a hubbub that there's like this whole group of collectors that track and understand and document everything about this. Even if they don't own a Nintendo World Championships themselves, they become like experts on Nintendo World Championships. And if you have a cartridge, like all of a sudden you get connected to all the people who have all the other cartridges. You get like put in the little club of people who have NWCs. And I'm sure you know even more about Nintendo World Championships. Blockbuster World Championships 2 is so no one fucking cares that even like the few people on Earth who own this cartridge, you guys aren't even in a little club together. No one is tracking the Blockbuster World Championship 2s. Like, there's no Facebook group of like, here's the cool Blockbuster World Championship 2 stuff. What is going on? Why are you guys in a club is what I'm asking, Johnny. Why are there no fans of Blockbuster World Championship 2?
So apparently there was a part 3, a championship 3 as well. Did you hear this? That was at PRGE the year that we were there.
Are you serious? No, I didn't.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about this
thing. That's funny.
Yeah, we did nothing with this. Anyways, and there's a part 1 that no one talks about as well.
Because people don't care, Johnny. I'm just going to let people know right now, no one gives a shit about 90s video game competitions. People care about the physical artifacts that were left over. If the Nintendo World Championships cartridges didn't exist, it would be like more of a footnote than it already is. But the fact that it has super cool fucking cartridges, that's why people remember it. Also, speaking of impossible rares, Nintendo World Championships Gold is the ultimate impossible rare. And not because it's the rarest, because it's definitely not like the rarest game of all time. But it was obtainable through a contest in Nintendo Power. And there are so many other games with weird circumstances. This might have been like the weirdest circumstance to have a contest that only 26 people win. But that is something that a regular consumer could have obtained, and no one includes it in the NES set list because everyone just agrees, it might as well be impossible. By the way, Johnny, NES, Nintendo World Championships Gold, put that on your set list. Nope. Counts.
But the gray doesn't.
Mm-mm. Those were stolen. Everyone who owns a gray should go to jail.
Get out of here, you maniac. Anyways,
those are property of Nintendo of America, Johnny. I want them confiscated. Okay. Johnny, Mega Drive Tetris. You could go in all the boomer rares. Like anything like an old person cares about is probably the only reason they care about it is because it's impossible to get it. And like we're talking about people collecting games in like the 90s. And so all the stuff that like you might think about as like being like, oh, it's rare, like, I don't know, Crusader of Senti is one that we brought up on the last show. They could go and just like buy a Crusader of Senti back then. And there were so few people collecting games that for something to be genuinely rare, there's like one copy on fucking Earth. So Gamma Attack for the Atari 2600, Johnny, there's like one copy on fucking Earth. Or Mega Drive Tetris, there's a handful of copies around this weird, like not really released version of Mega Drive Tetris. I don't know how many actually exist, but they're incredibly rare. Just two more games that fall into this category.
And all the old Atari, like your air raids and things like that, the core Atari games that also I think kind of fall into this area.
Absolutely, you can just like chop off like the top 20 Atari games, and they're rarer than all the shit we collect.
Yep. Anyways, any other impossible rares you want to bring up for this category?
Nope, because everybody knows all the rarest games. Also, the story of Mega Drive Tetris was that they developed it, planned to release it, and then it was canceled when they realized they didn't own the rights to Tetris, that's a very, very funny
because
story.
It did. Yeah, I mean, people not owning the rights to Tetris has hardly stopped anyone.
I know, right? They should have just done it. Like what?
Yeah. The one scruple, like somebody had one scruple and they're like, nope, we can't do it over here. So weird. Anyways. But you want to talk about one thing, like, I thought this lined up more with your first category, your like mainframe stuff. But tell me about Tetris. Why does it get its own category? And we're not talking Genesis Tetris or NES Tetris or Game Boy. Original Tetris.
Sure. So Tetris was developed by Alexei Pajitnov, guy that Johnny famously sat next to at PRGE once. For the
famously, yes,
Electronica 60. And I didn't go and read Wikipedia. You can go read Wikipedia. I don't think the original version of Tetris was a commercial game. It was literally just developed and copied onto floppies, and I'm sure it was like modified over time and kind of spread throughout whatever weird nerdy groups in the USSR Tetris spread throughout. But this isn't in like the random old shit category, because the reason you can't own Tetris isn't because it's old. Tetris was programmed in 1984. That's not like the equivalent of the Sumerian game, which was like 1962, I think. This is more the circumstances of it being developed in the USSR and being maybe the biggest game that you can't own. I think this gets a special shout out, because every version of Tetris you could buy. What's the first commercial release of Tetris? It's the Spectrum Holobyte Apple version. It's one of the Spectrum Holobyte versions, but like it's super common because like the minute Tetris was released on computers, there was like hundreds of thousands of copies of Tetris sold. And then, there's the Nintendo version, there's the Game Boy version, the NES version. There's so many great versions of Tetris to buy, but like the one ultimate collectible wasn't even a retail release. It was the Electronica 60 copy of Tetris. The thing is, like, this is like an artifact that, like, theoretically Alexei Pajitnov could have saved the original disc Tetris was burned onto. Or, if he didn't have scruples, he could fake it so easily. You just put, like, a white label on a floppy disk and be like, this was the original copy of Tetris. And you just sell it for $1 million. But apparently he has scruples and didn't do that. But yeah, you can't own the original version of Tetris. I don't even know, like, is that dumped? Is there an Electronica 60 emulator?
You are asking the wrong guy.
Come on, you don't you don't emulate old Soviet computers, Johnny? What are you talking about?
I really don't. No.
The Tetris wiki has enough information about it that makes me think that you could totally go play this somehow, Johnny.
Yeah, I don't know. And I have yet to watch that Tetris show on Apple TV. I don't even know if that's out yet, but probably out soon.
I think that's out.
Is that? I'm not sure.
The fucking Tetris wiki, like, the things they care about in Tetris are things like when it gets to the bottom, can you still spin it? So there's like this whole little section on like, oh, you can still spin the determino when it gets to the bottom of the screen, because like they don't. That's the thing that matters with Tetris. There's only so many things that happen in Tetris, so what they care about is probably like how the pieces are randomized, whether you could spin it, whether you could do a hard drop. All right, I don't know.
All right, nerd. Anyways,
Yep.
And that's not our last category, even though it's its own. And like, you got one more thing here.
Oh, this is a bonus tangential thing that just annoys me, and we've brought up recently. Johnny, you can't buy the best version of a game if it doesn't have a best version. And so the ultimate example of this to me is Outrun. Because Outrun is a very obtainable arcade game. As much as like there are rare arcade games out there, there are expensive arcade games out there, Outrun is a very common game, and it's a cool as fuck game. In my opinion, Outrun is the single best classic arcade game out of everything. Not the most collectible, but I love Outrun. Outrun, it's got a pedal, it's got a wheel, and the cabinet shakes when you screw up, which is such a dumb feature that will do nothing but like break your game faster. But that's so cool. Like the whole thing starts shaking. The problem with the amazing, perfect arcade version of Outrun runs at 30 frames a second. And it's a racing game, so don't tell me that doesn't matter. The Sega Saturn version of Outrun runs at 60 frames a second. And it's so much fucking better. And so it makes me want, yes, you could just own both of them, but I hate the fact that I can't just look at the one thing and like, I can't put one thing on the pedestal and say like, this is the best version of that game. It drives me nuts. And it like, this usually isn't a problem. Like it usually, if there's like an Xbox, a PS2, and a PC version of the game, for me personally, I would get the PC version and be like, this is clearly the best version. It runs the best technical whatevers. This is the thing. Or like if it comes down to like Halo, PC versus Xbox, you just get the Xbox version and say like, this is clearly the version of Halo to own, blah, 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 blah. But then you come to Daytona, USA, and they're all going to be these Sega AM2 racing games because that's what I like. I had a Daytona USA cabinet, Johnny. Back in my crazy days of owning arcade machines, Daytona USA is an excellent arcade game. But there's also this version on Xbox Live and PlayStation Network that's better than the arcade. And that's a version I can't own. So you could have the real fucking thing, an entire fucking like, it's like a bigger than like 3 kitchen islands put together piece of shit cabinet, or like this digital version that you can't really own that you could download for $10 on Xbox is actually the best version of the game. But is it? Because that's not the real arcade version. And this kind of thing drives me nuts, Johnny.
So aside from Outrun, give me other examples.
I mean, all I've got is racing games. I was hoping you would have an example of a game there's no best version of. Because, like, also the same thing with Virtua Racing. It has, like, the arcade version, which is the real thing. And then they just released it on Nintendo Switch in, like, widescreen 60 frames a second, which is, like, very clearly the best version of the game, but you can't own it. And so there's really two things. So there's no clear winner on what the best version is. And that's not as much of a problem because you could just get all of them. But the worst part is when the best version is the unownable version. Because that makes me want to own the original or like the one that I can own less. Like I don't want to own like a Virtua Racing cabinet if the stupid $8 Nintendo Switch version is actually the only way I would ever want to play that now.
Yeah, so when I was talking about DLC for games, and I don't have citable examples right now because I didn't do a bunch of looking into it. I'm sure some Google searching we can find it, but there are going to be games where only the out of box version is available, but the best version was all the mods they made, or like games that just got like if there is no computer to like update them. All the patches that have happened in all these games that took unplayable games and finally made them good. But the version you're going to own is the unplayable jank version out of the box if the servers are gone.
I mean, if you just never play your games, who cares though? Maybe is that the answer to this whole category? Just don't play your games. And you don't need to worry about the best version.
I think we are part of a podcast called Collector's Quest, so we try to ascribe value to versions and put them in some sort of tier system where we say you could own this one, but maybe this one's the best one to get. That might be a thing we do.
When
here.
you put it so plainly like that, it just makes us seem, I mean, as if we aren't constantly crazy, but just like we ascribe value to the best version of games that we'll probably never play, but we know that this version has more value. As you can see, this disc was made in Japan.
Yeah, we're lunatics. Like, look, but whatever we are, right? We're lunatics, but whatever we are, we're not popcorn bucket collecting lunatics.
That's true. Yes. How do they have space for that? Like, they have like a collection of 25
they're
popcorn
so
buckets,
big.
and it's like, okay, I guess you're done? Oh my God.
Dude, I want you to know, I have one of these Disney popcorn buckets that was given to my wife, and it's like Snow White's apple or something, and it's gigantic. It's gigantic. What do people do with these?
I mean, apparently you have one, so.
I mean, that
They
was just
have
because
'em.
we were there, and our friend was like, "Oh, you should get this. It's collectible." It's how I even found out they were stupid and collectible. It doesn't matter. My wife loved popcorn. She was buying popcorn. They're like, "Oh, you might as well get the bucket version." And it's like, okay, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I don't understand.
I hate it.
No,
And I
no,
also hate
you
games
love
I
it.
can't own, Johnny, but that's it. Those are some games I thought of. A lot of these annoy me. I like owning things.
Look, dude, people collect everything. Like, people, like, it's not always a hobby, right? But, like, one-off people collect weird things. There are people who collect toenail clippings, which is weird, right?
Don't tell
They
me that.
collect, yeah, umbrellas. Like, this, like, Coke cans. You know, there's, like, bottle and can collectors, too. And I don't mean by people who are looking for redemption values. Like, they just keep them. The troll dolls, from the 80s and 90s, people collect a lot of stuff. People are collectors.
I get cans.
And,
Cans are beautiful. I'm into cans. You guys who are collecting cans are doing the right thing. The only reason I don't collect cans is I don't want to drink like that many different soft drinks. I'm just not a soft
What
drink
about
guy.
people who just collect they collect McDonald's toys?
No, that's a garbage collectible because by nature of being a McDonald's toy, like there are a billion of every single one of those. So like, what about that's collectible? That's like collecting modern stamps. Like I could just go to the post office and get them. What do you mean you collecting these?
So I typed in real quick weird things people collect, and I'm looking at a list. They're showcasing a guy who collects traffic cones, dresses, airline barf bags.
I mean,
hot
that's probably a
sauce.
very compact collection. Like you could just shove that in a shoebox.
Paper dolls, miniature chairs, milk bottles.
There are two guys
There
on
are
YouTube.
people-
One collects vacuums, which is excellent, but the guy I really like, there's a guy who collects plastic chairs, like just like lawn chairs, and he like his entire basement is full of them, and like sometimes stacks of like 10 of the same chair on top of each other, and he can go through and talk about what he likes about each chair. I fucking love that guy. Like I thought it was a joke the first time, but then I saw a couple more videos from him. I'm like, no, this guy's legit. He collects plastic chairs. Love him.
That's very weird. Anyways, yeah, you can Google weird things people collect, and you will get. There's so much stuff, Tyler. So
All of our brains are-
however weird, it's like but see, they're weird, but they are weird exactly like you are, and it's just their brain rotted just to a different thing. That's. They just like that guy leaned towards a chair. Had he had video games in his life, that guy would be collecting video games. Like if that was like a main thing for him.
Just like at the key moment in his childhood, just like something snapped and he happened to be sitting on a chair and he's like, I like this chair. It has just
Yeah.
the right proportions for my body right now. What a great piece
And
of
then
design.
he remembered it. Yeah, he's like, and then he remembered another chair. He's like, I like that one too, but it didn't do this quite as well. And then his brain spun out like a collector does. And then he started thinking about all the chairs he ever sat in and started balancing them against each other like a fucking maniac.
Hey guys, welcome to my chair tier list. Today we're going to be talking about, can you make a reclining plastic chair? Well, I've got 8 different attempts at it for us to take a look at.
Yeah. And don't you dare bring up those inflatable chairs. Those are all garbage.
You know what? Some of you guys are coming at me saying inflatable chairs are still technically plastic if you think about it. No, we are talking about rigid, hard plastic chairs here at Chair World, okay?
Hey, I have to bring this up. If they're so rigid, why do they flex so much? Isn't that part of the key of what makes them comfortable? That there is some flex into them, unlike wooden chairs?
Yeah, and that makes them fragile, which, you know what? That means a lot of these plastic chairs break and get thrown out, and that's why they're collectible. This is what my mom doesn't understand.
Yeah. I can't wait to show you my recent finds. A few of these were in bad condition, but they were sitting next to the garbage cans. You know, I'm always out there every trash day hitting the root to make sure that I pick these up before people put them in the garbage because they don't know what they have.
It must be delightful
all I got on
to collect
Bits.
something that not another person on Earth cares about, and because you by like the nature of you being the only collector, you would be the best collector. So like whatever you think is the coolest thing, you're like, huh. I'm at the top of the hobby. I've got the Hagenaut MT2000 chair. I'm the best. And you're the best in your own mind, and that releases the dopamine.
Yeah. I collect these fingernails. This one clearly came from a thumb, but not just any thumb. I think I got one from an NBA player because look how wide this nail is. Like, they had to have had gigantic hands. Like, if you collect fingernails, do you think about stuff like that? Do you see people with really big hands and you're like, oh, I would love to get that variant?
That's too creepy for me to think about. I don't know about that.
But, like, I mean, this is what we do, right? In video games, we, like, look into all the stupid minutia. Imagine if your brain had settled on something like fingernail clippings.
That seems like a mental disorder, not a collection. But I mean, I kind of like the same thing in some senses, but like there has to be a line where it's like, yeah, you clearly intervention is needed if you're collecting
that's
toenails.
Gross. Someone should talk to. Maybe what about toenails only? Like fingernails too. Like any nails you collect is a little bit gross. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are more people than we think that collect fingernails. Not healthily. Hey, and if you are one of these people, we are applying a little bit of judgment against you. Sorry. And like, also a little gross. Sorry. I'm not into that. If I'm yucking your yum, sorry, but ew.
I don't even want to think about that as a yum, Johnny. Should we move on?
We should. What should we move on to?
Johnny, it's question time, I think.
Ooh.
All 4 of you guys who ask questions, go in the Discord room and ask more questions because I think we're almost running out.
Oh, wow. We've almost done it.
Like now a bunch of people are going to go put in questions and we're going to respond to them in like 4 months. Retro Game Enthusiast asks, what's a good, reasonable offer? Full stop.
Like, for what?
So someone has a game up for $100. Let's say there's no price history, but you don't want to pay the $100. Like, how low would you go before you think it's offensive to them, I guess?
So there's a couple schools of thought, right? And it really depends. We've talked a little bit about this, like in theory, when we were like kind of talking you through some of it. It depends. First thing I do is I check out what else the person has for sale. That's like a very key component to how I make this judgment. If they are a person who sells video games, right? Like all day long, if it's like their job, I don't think they're offended by lower offers. They're probably not going to take a lower offer, but they're probably going to respond. And also, if they don't respond, I don't take it personally. So, that's the first thing I'm doing. So I need to know, to a certain degree, who I'm dealing with. Like if it's like someone who looks like they're just trying to get quick cash, I take that into account. Like, are they selling? And this, I mean, sounds a little predatory, but if they've got a bunch of like dumb collectibles, like maybe they're just rooting out of their house, like this is their version of a garage sale. I'm like, okay, like I can offer less than I normally would. Or are they a collector? If they're a collector and they're just like, this might just be a value proposition for them. Maybe they found it live and, they know exactly what it's worth, but they got it cheap. So they have some wiggle room. Like or how hot is the game is also a thing I take into account. Like, did this just like suddenly blow up? Is this like a game of the moment? Like, so people aren't going to take less. So sometimes it's 10%. I think coming in, like without being offensive, and I think you can go like 20-25% less than asking. I don't think that's necessarily going to get accepted, but I think that gives you a starting point to try and get to the 15 to 10%, which is where I think a lot of these things settle for your average person. But I will sometimes come in at like 50%. I've done like also the price of their item compared to market, like what it's for. If it's a thing that has no market, then and they've got like a crazy price on it, they might just be seeing how much someone will offer. So I always start low there. If they get offended or there's an auto decline, then I like have to adjust my strategy. Does that make sense, Tyler?
I mean, yeah, you're definitely way different than me because I don't send a lot of offers at all. Basically, I come across plenty of listings where like, man, I wish that was like 20% less. Honestly, anything 0 to 20% off, I feel like I'm nickel and diming the person. Even if it would be like reasonable for them to just give me 20% off, I just don't send the offer. It's like you're asking, $70 for this and I want to pay like 55. Like, fuck, I'm just going to wait for one to come up for 55. Like, is it worth?
But if they've got an offer on it, why not? Who cares? Takes you 2 seconds.
Yeah, but they see it's me, and then it's like, oh, what's this default gen guy is just sending me the stupid offer? What, he can't afford the extra $15 to just pay my asking price?
So change your eBay name to Tyler the Game Buyer. Or
Tyler the
whatever.
Game Buyer, I like it.
And that'll let them know you're in for business. I've come across, I send so many offers that people from Instagram and even our own Discord will be like, hey, Johnny, did you just send me an offer on my game? I'm like, oh, is that you? Yeah, I did. And negotiate outside. I love sending offers. I love the negotiation.
No, you see, I hate it. So like, I think like 0 to 20, that's like super nickel and dimey for me. And then more than that, I'm like, they're not going to accept like a third off their price. So I just end up never sending offers.
I'm nickel. Your theory is I'm nickel and diming them, or this is a low ball. That's crazy. There has to be ground in the middle.
That's the only thing my mind will let me think. So I just hate sending offers.
No.
I will only send an offer if like 1,000,000% I don't care about winning your game. And if you reject me the first time, I just won't counter.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
If I put a best offer on something that was literally like $2,000 overpriced. I'm like, here's what I think it's actually worth. I think you've overpriced this quite a bit, my friend. And it was auto declined, and I'm just like, all right, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not offended by that. And when they changed the offer thing from 3 to 5, oof, man, that made my life a lot easier.
You can only get auto rejected like 5 times or something, or rejected in general 5 times?
Yeah, it used to only be 3. Like, you could only send 3 offers, and then they changed it up to 5.
Man, just make an auction, dude. Like, I'm watching some of these things because I don't send offers, but I'm like, I've got some stuff on my on my watch list. And people just keep up the same thing for like 2 years. My guy.
I know.
It's like, it's not even like a huge thing. It'll be like a $75 thing. And it's not worth $75. You're going to hold on to this for 2 years? Throw it up for $10 as an auction. Get it out of your house. Who are you holding out for? It's been 2 years. There's no buyer. I'm the buyer. I've got $23 for it. Why don't you just sell it to me and get rid of it? You have $0 for it right now. 2 years. What is going on? And if I cared, I would have bought it. But guess what? If I haven't bought it after 2 years, there's no one who cares because it's annoying me, and I'm still not buying it.
Now, Tyler, imagine that this is something we talk about all the time when we're talking about keeping yourself liquid, going through inventory. If this is your job to sell stuff, and then you've, like, if I go to your booth, and this happens a lot locally, I go to your booth and you still have the same thing you had 3 years ago. Look, man. Or if your prices are still at the peak COVID prices, and I'm like looking at your stuff, I'm like, man, are you ever adjusting down? Because like this just isn't where we are. You've lost touch with reality. But some people, they'll get like that, and they'll say things like, well, I have 55 into it, so I gotta get like 60. And you're like, the game is market for like $40 on eBay all day. It is not my responsibility to cover your bad business decision. So you can keep that, but I'll go find someone else who wants to play ball. But whatever. That's the nature of the game.
Johnny, Josh Barley asks, a thing we had a whole episode on. What are your long-term collecting goals and why? Josh, I love you, but we did have kind of a whole episode on that recently. Not that long ago. I will just say my long-term goal right now is to like be fucking done. I want to like get some of these major games I want off my list and then work on organizing and documenting and selling the stuff I don't need. I am so not in the mindset right now to like start a new set project or anything. Largely in part, one, I just have too much stuff in general, but also like super out of room. So
yeah, me is kind of the same. Like I want to like wrap up some stuff, but this year is way more about the organization. Like not like a physical organization like in my office, but like in totes and like the organization of the data that I have. Like, okay, I own these games. Like I for sure own all of these. Here they're documented. I've scanned them into my thing. I know exactly which version I have because if I'm looking at variants, I don't have to guess anymore. I just want that all done right because my long-standing database got so unwieldy and like just there was a crash and then that messed me up, and then my son was born, and that messed me up further. It became untenable. So yeah, I started over, and this has been the year of just like getting it back in shape. Just so I know where everything is. Like that's kind of reflected in like the what are you buying. I still hope to like buy some cool games. I'll like pick here and there, but I'll probably wind up buying more expensive, like a few more expensive things rather than like really digging into like a bunch of $25 games or something.
Speaking of like cataloging stuff, I keep switching like technology platforms lately. Like I've got my entire collection or like, the kind of shambles that it's in right now on Notion, and I'm trying to switch away from Notion because they're an evil no privacy company that's adding AI features and they're going to suck up all my data, and the NSA is going to send someone to assassinate me. I'm just trying to move away from platforms that have privacy issues. Like Notion can literally see, everyone who works at Notion can see everything you put into Notion. And I hate that, especially for, something I dump like my entire life into, like my game collection database. I think I've got like 70,000 entries. I don't own 70,000 games, but that's just like where I track all my data of like variants and things like that. I dump all my pictures in there. I just want it to be on a better platform than that. And then like I like collectors a lot. Like I don't think do they have a Linux version? Because now I'm switching to Linux. I don't want to use their stupid web version because I hate stupid recurring like subscriptions for web apps. I've got to figure out what I'm doing with my database going forward. It's frustrating. Yeah, these are the kind of things that I could work on now that I'm, not buying everything that's not nailed down with FOMO crazy panic.
Good.
Johnny, one more, just because we kind of already answered that one before, but OGCIB, did Mr. Sib change his name? I kind of love it.
I guess so. And you're like, the same 4 people will get in there and ask, but like none of these people normally ask questions.
OGCIB asks, has the rise in graded video games made you more sensitive to condition than you were previously?
Yes.
What
about you?
Yes. I mean, it's kind of, there was a rise in everything since 2019, 2020, 2021. I mean, there's a whole big, like, bunch of forces that led to me being much more condition sensitive. Not the least of which was that at the end of 2019 into 2020, I completed like the last card only sets that I was working on. And so basically from that point on, I was only buying complete in box stuff. And so with my mind to I am basically buying complete in box from this point forward, like I started getting, way more picky about my boxes. Seeing the graded stuff go forward, like it just made it so clear that condition and completeness is very undervalued. Like not even the graded stuff, because I'm never grading a complete in box game. I won't say it's stupid. There's probably people listening who have graded CIVs, but that is so not for me. But it has pointed out to the people who are paying like thousands of dollars for just have like the nicest pieced together incorrectly CIB video games that like there aren't enough of like the super gem mint components out there, and just the amount of like the amount of nice games that have completely dried up off eBay because you used to be able to just like, oh, a game's $100. I'll just hunt it till like a really nice one comes up and I'll pay $110 for it. Like that doesn't happen anymore. So it's made me a lot more trying to find the best bang for buck condition, I think. Usually ending up on the higher end of condition for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, even before like the rise of WATA, like one of the imperatives that we issued out, like if you're going to collect, we said, buy the nicest, most complete version you can buy. In every other hobby, condition is king. That will get here. And we were validated in kind of the worst possible way when during the pandemic, when everything went insane. But yeah, even though we would say that, and even though intellectually I knew that and tried to do that, I became even more sensitive after all of this.
Yeah. And oh man, it used to be ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
There was like, Super Metroid is $120, and like a 3 out of 10 would be like $112, and then like an 8 out of 10 would be like $122. There was no spectrum at all. There was just like, well, that game's $120. And there's a little bit of that now, but mostly on the lower grades. Like the difference between like a 4.5 out of 10 and a 7 out of 10 is sometimes almost nothing. So I still think there's room to get a much better thing with some hunting rather than paying more money.
True. And like if you look at the way grades are in comics, the grade and the value per grade is at a much wider spectrum than it is for video games. And we're still all kind of knotted up. It's either perfect or it's not, is kind of where we are. It's like, it's either a 9.6, 9.8, or it's trash. There's just not enough delineation still in prices. But if you look at how comics trended, you really see that scale slide and prices adjust accordingly. And I think we can expect more of that to happen as we go forward.
I agree with that. I mean, I wouldn't mind if it became like modern comics where it's like, it's a 9.8 or you have actual trash, because then if you're like a collector, you're like, okay, I'll take the 9.6 for 1/3 of the price because it has one spine tick. I mean, that when people get like completely nutso bananas about condition, I mean, there is some element where if people only want like the absolute mintest stuff, that does make like really nice stuff, like decent nice stuff, becomes sometimes a relative deal.
It's in comics, it's crazy because like sometimes you can have a 9 and I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is a really nice book, and people are like, no, there's this one piece of whiting here which happened, and I'm like, I barely see that with my eye. They're like, yep, that's why it's a 9, not a 9.8. I'm like, well, I will definitely pay $200 less for that then, thanks.
Yeah. Like
Appreciate it.
Don't collect sealed Switch games, but if you collect sealed Switch games, like a 9.6 A plus is going to be like actual trash for the Nintendo Switch, just because there's so much new stock that, I mean, you can go buy it now, obviously. So like those are there's zero premium for like the 9.6 A plus, which objectively, that's a super nice game. Like I could have went to Best Buy. It would look exactly like I went and bought it at a Best Buy, but that's the problem. When there's so many, you need the case fresh, absolute 9.8 A plus plus. Yeah, Johnny, we care more about condition. Yep. And if you don't, that's cool, because having stuff is cool. It's all a piece of history.
Yep. Do what you want to do. All right. Tyler, we did the thing where we answered the questions. Now let's talk about what we bought and what we played. So Tyler, please tell me, What'd you buy? Did you buy anything? This section of Collector's Quest has been real boring lately.
Oh, has
Did
it?
you buy anything?
I've got something.
Yeah, we have not had we have not been buying that much stuff.
I bought something big. I spent over $100 on something, but it is the only thing I bought.
Oh my god.
Johnny, I bought. Tell me if you know what this is. I bought Arab Drift Cars 1 for the PlayStation 4.
So I know what this is because you told me you got this, and I went, "What is that?"
Johnny, I don't know. So I only know this game exists because I was in like the Get the Greg's Games Discord, and someone posted like an eBay link to like a sealed copy of this game, and there were like 2 sealed copies at the time on eBay. And now you go on eBay and there's like a scattering of copies, and they're all sealed, and it's got a PEGI rating on it. So it was released in Europe or the Middle East or something. And I don't know what it is. It is an awful game. So it's one of these games you could look up a speed run of like how to get like a platinum trophy or whatever, and it's literally like 3 minutes long. But the actual game, it's like the framework of a GTA game, so you can get in cars, get out of cars, and drive around. And this is you can go buy this in somewhere, presumably, but it runs at like 7 frames a second. And like everything about this game is entirely broken, and it looks like someone took the template for like a GTA game from Unity, dropped it down, said, "There's the template. Okay, I guess that's the video game," and shipped it. And I don't know if it's a joke. I mean, it seems like a joke because it's called Arab Drift Cars 1, and it's got a very like Grand Theft Auto 3 font to it. So I think they were going for like the intentionally bad meme game. I mean, they obviously were, I think. It's awful. The box art's awful. Everything about this game is awful. But that makes it cool and funny to me. So I wanted to own it. And I don't even know where this was released. Because you look up Arab Drift Cars 1 on like Google or whatever, and it just shows you like a bunch of gameplay footage or like, you know, sites like where to buy the game, like the digital copy of the game. So you don't know where this came from. I don't know where this came from, Johnny. Modern Database does. Dan Gomez, you want to tell me where this came from? Because I know he has a copy too. And so seeing him have a copy like validated it for me. Like, oh yeah, if this is like a stupid bad game that a collector would want to own, I like owning really bad games. So I bought this game. It was like over $100, Johnny.
That's crazy. And the cover is so awful.
It's very much like Life of Black Tiger was the other like PSN game that was like such a meme for being basically bad and unplayable. This seems a little bit more leaning into the intentionally bad side, almost like a poop slinger. Obviously nowhere near as rare or quote unquote interesting, but yeah, I like it. The only thing I don't like is as a PEGI logo. God damn, the PEGI logos are so ugly. I don't know how you people deal with them.
They are pretty atrocious. You know how we like our games, beautiful and clean. With like, man, the Switch cases they've got them so ugly. Anyways, I can't even talk about it. We have our problems too. Like, just make clean cases. Can we just like leave all the technical information on the back of the game? Could we just do that and have like beautiful art in the title just on the front? No. Is that too much?
Johnny, how would your mom know
we have
whether...
to put the rating so everyone... We have to have the rating so everyone can see it. It's like, well, couldn't they just pick it up and turn it over? Like, can that not be the standard?
I've told this before, but the warning on the front of Conker's Bad Fur Day prevented me from taking it up to my parents and asking them to buy it for me. And I ended up with Forsaken instead. So I switched out an M-rated game for a different M-rated game because the warning was less clear. So I do think having it on the front makes a difference, even if it's just in the willingness of kids to ask to buy it.
But see, you still got, the point is you still got an M-rated game. You were not protected.
Yeah, I know.
Can we just knock this off?
Anyways. Side note, it is nuts that Forsaken got an M rating. It's like you're shooting spaceships with lasers. There's nothing crazy violent about that game at all.
That is a little weird. All right. That's all you bought? Did you play anything?
That's all I bought. Johnny, been playing some Mind Test, which is Linux Minecraft. You don't want to hear about it. It's pretty good for being free, though.
Okay. Fine.
You want to play? You want to start a server? You want to get some mind test going? Everyone's playing mind test. All the kids are talking about it.
Yep.
I'm actually Mind Test is kind of the engine, and then the game I'm playing is called Mine Clone 2. Johnny, there's a Mine Clone 2, and a Mine Clone 5. Presumably, there's also a 3 and 4, but because of open source development, there's all these different forks, and it actually turns out Mine Clone 2 is better than Mine Clone 5, so that's the one I'm playing. Oh yeah, really stupid. Little bit of a nightmare to figure out like what version of the game I'm supposed to play. And the fact that, like, I downloaded Mind Test, but I'm actually also supposed to download Mine Clone. And it's Minecraft to the point where, like every mechanic and, like, the textures are a little bit different, but everything else is exactly the same. And I don't know how they haven't been sued out of existence, but I don't know, seems cool to me.
Oh, well, that's so weird, Tyler. What is happening?
What do you mean, what is happening?
What, like... Never mind. Tyler, I'm going to tell you what I bought. Okay. I did buy stuff. I made a video on our Discord for people in the sad room. Or no, this was just a regular video I made. I don't know what was happening. Like I had really bad insomnia one night. So I just like made bad, lazy content for people because I was up and I did not want to watch TV or movies. So I was told once upon a time that if you bought the limited run blind boxes, like those wound up being a good value. And I was like, I doubt that. But let's give it a whirl. So I bought 3 of them. And they weren't very interesting. I guess I did all right. But I got Haven for the Switch in one of my blind boxes. That one was considered not good. Godstrike, that one was considered pretty mediocre. But I got a gold Star Wars card, so that's cool. Knights of the Republic 2. Or no, is it Jedi Knights Outcast? So, got a gold card for that rather than just the regular silver. I'm sure some version of collectors care about that. But the one I was told is good is Fury, the definitive edition. I don't know anything about these games, and I didn't bother to look. I just got their blind boxes and to see how I felt about that. And it was. I was not blown away with the supposed value. I think they are still worth what I paid for them. Not that I care about that, but it was purely an exercise in like, what will I get in value? Is this even interesting or fun? And it's just gambling. And if you're into that sort of thing, then buy them. I bought 3 games. I got some more good stuff coming, like an actual expensive game coming. So hopefully I get to talk about that in the next episode. I have to make sure it's not fake first. I don't think it is. But you got to be careful.
All right, Johnny, as the gambling enthusiast on this show, I don't understand why you would buy a blind box, because like, I don't know, what'd you spend, $40 each for those? And you could have just bought a game you knew you wanted for $120.
Look, I did it because I was told specifically, like, oh, you always get good values out of these. This is like a safe, go do this. And I was like, whatever, I'll just do it for funsies.
Whoever,
I've spent more money on dumber things.
Whoever is telling you, like, you always get a good value out of this, like, okay, are you accounting for shipping, my time, eBay fees, the other shipping I have to pay when I actually sell it? Like, if you do good, quote unquote, with a blind box, that probably means you break even after all the fees and taxes and shipping if you went to go and resell it.
Probably, but also I'm never selling things like this, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's not really in the. I just want to see like what is the inherent value of this, and like how do I feel? I've heard this not just from one person, a couple of people. I also ran like my random luck, like let's say out of booster packs and stuff, is not good, and it wasn't particularly great here. So maybe I just have bad luck and it's good for others. But it's all random chance, so who gives a shit? Yeah, I don't think I did particularly well, but I wanted to see like, oh, maybe it's like a sure thing. And then I could say like, hey guys, I did this and it was like fun or it wasn't fun. Anyways, people got a YouTube video out of it, which is a rare occurrence for me. So in that case, we all won, Tyler. Unless you watched the video, in which then you kind of lost.
I couldn't hear the video
About
because there was no audio at all. You
don't-
need to
what-
come
you
to me
keep,
when you
like-
do your video production, Johnny.
Okay, see, I don't understand this because I play it and it sounds completely fine on my computer and in my headphones. I checked it on my wife's iPad. I had her check it. I had a couple other people. There's like 5 people who said can't hear it, and then I got 5 people who say no, it sounds fine. So I don't understand what happened there. But I mean, I don't care. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I just made this at 4:30 in the morning or something stupid.
Technology.
So, whatever. Technology. I mean, I was recording into my mic in all my normal settings. So yeah, I don't know what happened there.
What happened is I normally edit the audio. Just send everything to me.
I know you. Okay. I will just make sure at 4 in the morning I send you my YouTube video and be like, all right, pump the audio on this, buddy.
Hey,
Like these
4 in the
YouTube
morning,
videos I do once in a
I might have
while.
woken up.
You might have already been awake because it was 7 in the morning. Who knows? Anyways,
So next game you can't collect, Johnny. Candy Crush. Talk about a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like multiple people in my family who do not play video games played Candy Crush or still play Candy Crush.
I have a friend and his whole family plays Dragon Veil.
I don't
Still.
even know what Dragon
It's
Veil
like a dragon. It's like a dragon breeding game. They get eggs and stuff, and they like expand their like floating islands. They just his whole family
yeah,
plays
I've seen
it.
ads for this.
Yeah, they've been playing it for years. I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyways, that's what I bought. You know what else I just bought? I bought something. I just hit buy on it. You want to know what it was?
Yes.
And this is thanks, Tiger Wolf. I just bought a Clown Murder Case for the PlayStation in Japan. He showed it off for a different system, but there's a game that exists on the PlayStation 1 and other systems called Clown Murder Case, Tyler. What is happening in this world? This has been out for a long time. I've never heard of this. How horrifying.
I love that. See, if that came out on like PS5, I'd be like, okay, they're going for like a cutely named game. But the fact that it's like, I don't know, at a time when game names felt more real and it wasn't like the world of Arab Drift Cars 1, I love it. Clown Murder Case. Is it about a clown who murders people?
I'm not exactly sure. I think maybe he solves the murders. Or maybe a clown was murdered. I don't know what's happening here, Tyler. I just saw the cover and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm in on this. I'm in on this dumb name. Like it's going to go in the Halloween pile because clowns are scary.
All right, I'm in.
All right, that's it. Hey, Tyler.
Is that it?
That's it. I'm going to tell people where they can find you. You can't. Tyler's the cyber hermit. He will not be found by you or your AI and all the bots that are tracking him. FBI, if you're listening to this, you can't find Tyler anymore unless you go to our Discord, which you can only get to by joining our Patreon for $2. We'll get you access there, or $4 will get you bonus episodes that we do. I don't know if you just released one, but did you release the last one, the part 2 to the Genesis? Okay, so we did that Genesis episode, 10 games we'd start our collection. We did 10 more, so if you're interested in content like that, and Tyler and I talking about movies and other random stuff, that's the $4 level. Anyways, you can find us at patreon.com/collectorsquest, and that's it. That's where you can find Tyler, Discord, right?
I mean, unless you want to move our Discord server to an end-to-end encrypted matrix server so that big tech can't spy on us anymore. Discord's selling all of our data to the AI overlords, Johnny. We're all going to be doomed soon. They're just going to replace us with AI clones.
Yeah, I don't know that you aren't a clone already. Prove yourself, replicant.
I'm sorry, Johnny. I'm not an AI, but I don't really want to talk about that right now. Let's talk about something else.
Oh, that sounds good. If you're an AI, you have to tell me.
Legally, I wouldn't have to tell you if I was actually an AI, Johnny. But let's talk about something else.
Good answer. Anyways, yeah, you can kind of find me on Instagram, mainly in the DMs. You can find me if you need me there by sending a message, or you can also find me on our Discord So that's it. And that's Johnny underscore Iucci. And that's IUCCI if you don't know how to spell my last name. And that is it for the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with more. I'm thinking maybe a Disney game episode, a theme episode. Tyler, you love theme episodes.
Yeah, my favorite.
All right. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for listening. Bye.